Happy Saturday, everybody. Back to winter. At least where we are in the surrounding area, it totally snowed today. It is really, really cold. Well, for May, it's really, really cold outside. And we really wanted to move into more of like a spring and summer kind of recipe demo. However, because it's a little bit colder today, we decided to do one last kind of cold weather meal, which is stuffed cabbage. And this is one of Ken's favorites. He requested it.
Yeah.
If you've never had it, it's really delicious. Mine sort of borrows elements from Eastern Europe, where I believe this recipe originated. But I am doing it through kind of an Italian lens because I'm not filling it with the regular hamburger meat and uncooked rice that is kind of traditional with the filling. But I'll let you know what I do. Preview. It's pork. It's very delicious. So, it is all kind of braised in a tomato sauce. So I will start with that. Large pot I already have going. 1 diced yellow onion. And I have that just sort of sauteing in some olive oil, large pinch of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. This tomato sauce is gonna kind of be like a sweet and sour kind of a thing, but I kind of like the kick in there too, because we're gonna put sugar in it. But anyway, I'm going to add to this, now that we've got them sort of nice and soft, and I'm not looking for color, but almost browned. I have 3 cloves of minced garlic, and they are going to go right in. Again, as you've probably seen me cook, I always put garlic in sort of last minute and not with the onions, because the onions have been cooking for a good kind of maybe 8 minutes already, and if I had put the garlic in with them, it would be bitter, it would be burnt, so because they're so small. But anyway, we're just gonna kind of stir this around. We're looking for it to just get fragrant. This is gonna cook for a while, so it will certainly have plenty of chance to cook. All right, I am going to add in crushed tomatoes, 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. And I'm gonna give my garlic one last stir, and then I'm just gonna dump this in. I think this is a super easy sweet and sour tomato sauce, not too many ingredients. It comes together really quickly, which is nice. Okay, I smell the garlic, do you, babe?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think it's ready. Crushed tomatoes. Whole thing goes in. I'm just gonna give that a quick stir. I'm gonna increase the heat a little bit. Now, you've seen me cook with crushed tomatoes before. I'm a big believer in, let's not throw that out. So the recipe does call for a 1/2 cup of water, but I say let's use the 1/2 cup to rinse out this can and get as much tomato in there as we can. Again, we bought it. We want all that flavor. We don't want anything to go to waste. Wash out that can, rinse it out. That all goes in, 1/2 cup of water. I'm going to fill my measuring cup up with another 1/2 cup of water because we're going to use that a little bit later for the filling. So that's going to be over there. I'm going to give this a really quick stir just to mix the water in. Bay leaf goes in. I always put bay leaves in anything that's going to be long simmering. I think it gives it nice depth of flavor. Okay, I mentioned sweet and sour. So our sour is going to come by way of red wine vinegar, and it's just going to be 2 tablespoons. It's not going to be like super vinegary, but it's going to give it a little bit of interest. So 1, 2, not measuring that. Hopefully that was 2 tablespoons. And light brown sugar, we're gonna put in 1/4 cup. So this is obviously gonna be our sweet. It's packed, by the way. Really gotta get that up there. Okay. I'm going to just stir this in. I'm also going to season this now with 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. I might want to add more later, but for right now, that's what we're gonna start with. All right, bump this heat up a little bit more, stir this in. I just want the brown sugar to melt in here, get a little incorporated. Okay, that is the sauce. It comes together very quickly. Now, what we do want to do is bring this up to a boil, knock it back to a simmer, and we want to simmer it for like 20-30 minutes just to thicken it up, just to get that all melded together, because we do have such strong flavors in there with the vinegar and the sugar. So I'm going to exit that for now, but I'm going to keep an eye on it because sometimes tomato sauce, when it's boiling, explodes all over the place. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Okay, let us talk about our filling. Now, I said before that this is a pork filling, which is different than a traditional ground beef with rice. No rice in this whatsoever. It's almost like a pork meatball filling, and with Parmesan cheese, and that's kind of my Italian angle. So, we have one large egg in here. I've already beaten it up a little bit. And what I like to do before I put any meat in, I think you've seen me do this before, is put all of the other ingredients, get them well mixed, and then put the meat in at the last minute. But anyway, 1/2 cup panko breadcrumbs go in. I'm going to do a 1/2 cup of Parmesan. It's kind of easy to remember because it's all just like in half cups. Yeah, basically the whole thing. 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese goes in. And then I mentioned earlier, as I filled it up, 1/2 cup of just plain old water. You could also use chicken stock if you have that on hand. Like, of course, that would be delicious, 100%. At this point, I do like to give this a mix around, because what we want to do is get that liquid softening up those panko breadcrumbs and the Parmesan, and just get that going. Okay. These are kind of simple in way of seasoning, so I'm going to do a 1/4 cup, 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 cup of nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg goes in. Do not use a 1/4 cup. You will regret that for sure. Ooh, and let me grab my salt, because we're going to put a teaspoon of kosher salt in here as well. Earlier, I cooked and let cool 1 medium onion, yellow onion, chopped with 2 cloves of minced garlic and a teaspoon of fresh minced thyme leaves, just to give it a little more flavor. So at this point, and this is completely cooled, by the way, if we put this in hot into the egg that's in here, we would run the risk of kind of scrambling that, and we're not looking for scrambled eggs for this particular recipe. All right, that's good to go. I'm gonna get rid of this pan. I'm just gonna step back over here because I thought I heard my sauce had come to a boil. So I'm just going to give that a stir around, and I'm gonna knock the heat back to like medium low. So hopefully that just kind of simmers away and will not explode on us. Anyway, back to this. I do like to, as I said before, give this all a mix up before I add in my meat. Okay, I'm finished with the whisk. Now, meat-wise, get rid of some of this stuff. Meat-wise, pork. I have about 1.25 pounds of ground pork. I also have a 1/2 pound of spicy pork sausage. If you don't want to use spicy, you can totally use sweet Italian. That's fine too. I'm going to hold off for a minute on putting this in before I get my hands dirty, because I want to chat briefly about our cabbage. Now, these are stuffed cabbage rolls, so we need cabbage. Normally, I would have bought 1 big head of cabbage. However, the grocery store did not have any large heads, so I had to settle for 2 heads. You want the large leaves off of here. It makes your life so much easier. The minute you get down into the inner of this and the leaves get small, it gets difficult. Anyway, what I did was, before I did anything, I cut out the core. Because what I did with this and the other one that I used is I plunged this into boiling salted water. And as the outer leaves kind of started to soften, I peeled them back and off of the core. And I just laid them on paper towels to drain And I kept doing that until I had a bunch of these leaves. So then what I did, they get nice and floppy and pliable. That's what you want because we want to roll these. They do come with a thick stem and it's rather tough. So what I do is like to cut a triangle up in here, just so that we have tender cabbage the whole time. Anyway, here we go. Let us put our meat in and get mixing. So as I've done with meatloaf, as I did previously with the lamb meatballs, I don't want this to be compacted. I don't want to over mix this whatsoever, but I do want it thoroughly mixed. What I'm starting with is sort of breaking up the sausage because it's in a little bit tighter of a situation than the actual ground pork. And I want these sausage bits kind of evenly distributed throughout. So that's where I'm kind of gonna start with here before I get my claw in here and mix this through. Okay, same with meatloaf, same with lamb meatballs. Claw goes in. We start folding over so we get those onions and the breadcrumbs and the egg and the cheese and everything else seasoning wise that we stuck in here with water. We want to get that running evenly all throughout. And again, I have my claw going so we're not compacting this, but we are in a way aerating this, making sure it stays nice and lovely and soft, and so we don't have tough filling for our cabbage. All right. Feel good about that. So look at you, babe.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Set this to the side. Now, I usually, when I have larger leaves, use about 12 to 15 leaves. These are smaller. I cooked extra, I prepared extra because I don't know how much it's gonna take. If you had a large leaf, I would say use like a 1/4 cup of this filling, but I'm gonna back that off a little bit. Maybe just 3 tablespoons because these leaves are not super huge. But anyway, what you wanna do is lay your leaf flat on your surface. I'm gonna grab a little bit of this and sort of just shape it. Maybe do a little more on this side into kind of a log like that. And what I like to do is flip up these little flaps from when we cut, fold the sides in like this, and then we can just roll. And that is the cabbage roll. I'm just going to lather, rinse, repeat this until all of this is used, and hopefully I have enough leaves. But anyway, I like to set this on the baking sheet seam side down so they don't unravel. Now, once I have all these rolled, I will take these on over, gently nestle all of these in my sweet and sour tomato sauce. Again, seam side down. Yeah, she's simmering away nicely over there. Always seam side down. You want to submerge all of them. Don't stir. You'll break this up. Your filling will come out. No bueno. Clamp a lid on it. You have 2 options. Bake it for 1 hour in a 350-degree oven, or just simmer it nicely on your stovetop, again covered, for an hour or so. Everything should be tender. The leaves should be really super, almost translucent and see-through, and your filling will harden up. Your sauce will get in there. The pork will get into the sauce. It is really, really delicious. I promise. If you haven't had this, super good. I serve this over polenta. You can certainly do mashed potatoes or noodles or anything that you like, but I'm gonna be making polenta tonight. So that's our weird May chilly night dinner. So thank you, everybody.